everybody, to episode
7.
Thank you, 7. Episode 7, Work in Progress.
I
We have.
hope that's actually it.
Oh God, I hope it is too.
We started
Starting
so positive.
from my left, we have
Andrew.
Ian.
Brandon, Mitch, Shake, and we are here to bring the funny. Which reminds me, I switched our category. Shut up, phone. I switched. That's wow. Fuck me, right? I switched our category on iTunes.
Very
to,
unprofessional.
It is. It's very unprofessional. I'm just gonna go whip myself.
It's okay.
On iTunes, we are now under the comedy heading instead of the video game heading because I like to talk about video games. It's just usually we're either talking about comic books or video games or
movies.
We've gotten to that. We need to
So-
start
It's
plugging
not
our own
just a
stuff
media
again.
discussion subcategory.
Exactly.
We need to
I
start
wish
plugging
there
our own
was.
stuff again.
What's that,
Oh.
Mitch? Plugging our
We
own
need to start
Andrew-
plugging our
Andrew
own
has
stuff,
all
you
this-
plebe.
All this
Wait,
big
wait.
noise.
I'm ready for this.
Talk because
I am
need
as
this
well.
food.
Finally, it's time for the purpose of this show to come back into play.
Hooray!
I'm going to talk about stuff that I'm working on. So, those of you may recall that I plugged my blog in the first episode of this.
I do remember that.
rockrelapse.wordpress.com.
I don't listen to this shitty podcast.
That's cool. You probably shouldn't. It's terrible. I finally listened to it over the weekend. It's just
And you just
awful.
laughed at your own jokes all day.
Am I the only one who does that?
Oh, okay.
I'm just
But
in love with the
it's-
sound of my voice.
It's notable that since the first episode of this show, I have not updated that blog once.
God damn it, Andrew.
I'm sorry. It's been a long, arduous journey, but that's okay. I'm making up for past mistakes. Starting today, we are recording this on October 1st. I think everyone will be hearing it October 2nd.
Yeah.
But we're recording this on October 1st, so it starts today. I am beginning what I am affectionately referring to in a horrible pun as
Stupid.
Rocktober.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Better than September.
It does not,
It is.
however, segue into Rockvember or Rocksimber,
Yes,
which
please.
I was disappointed in.
Because I can't promise any
or
of this will
Rockuary.
continue.
Oh, I like
So-
that better.
So let me tell you guys what Rocktober implies.
Okay.
First of all, as of 3 o'clock today, we are no longer found solely at rockrelapse.wordpress.com because that's annoying. Now you can type in rockrelapse.com and there's one more. I have an official domain as of today.
Dropping real money over this
Big
piece.
money.
Yes, so that's exciting. It's easier to remember, easier to share with your friends, and you don't have to think, oh, it's an amateur WordPress blog every time you're on there, because that's what I think to myself.
I mean, if your layout's still amateur, though,
It is still amateur, but it feels less amateur.
But you're on the direction to be.
I might be able to. My cousin she was a web design major for like 3 years before she switched to like business administration. If you want, I can talk to her about fixing you up with some
I also know how to do
businesses.
graphic
He also does that.
because of my dad, who made websites
Web design?
Yeah,
for years.
that'll probably be easier if you just use it.
Well, maybe. We'll think about that. I actually really like the design I've got right now. It's just a basic like WordPress theme, but I feel like it gels really well.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not the
I
important part.
enjoyed the aesthetic.
Now, what you're asking yourself right now, no doubt, is what purpose is buying a fucking domain name if I never update the goddamn blog?
Andrew, wait. Let me stop you there. I have one
Stop
question.
me here.
I have one question. What purpose is buying the domain name if you don't ever update
What's
it?
a plebe?
What's a plebe?
Well, kids, I've got the answer
Ask
for
that
this.
question.
I am more aware than anyone that I have not updated my blog worth a shit. The last update was August 9th, I believe.
I'm going to stop you there, Andrew.
You're just.
You're not going to
you're
say
just
anything.
taking a drink.
You fucker.
Just what? I'm
What?
sorry.
So it has been almost 2 months since
Sorry,
I
I
updated
found
the
that
blog.
joke and I love it.
But starting today, and until the end of Rocktober,
But starring.
I will be posting a review of a 2013 rock album every other day on my
Yeah.
blog. That's today, and then Thursday,
And then the day.
Saturday, and then Monday, and so on and so forth until
almost-
Halloween.
And almost like it's every other day.
It's
Of
going
this
to be
month.
like one day, and
Is
then
it actually
won't
going to end
happen
on
the
Halloween,
next
or is it
day,
going to end on-
and then it'll happen
It will
again.
actually end on Halloween, because every other day will take one, and then there will be 16 reviews total.
Okay. Brad.
You should do something
Quite an
special
accomplishment.
for Halloween.
You
I don't
should.
know what.
So crown Rocktober.
Well,
I agree.
I don't know what I
Me
would
too.
do.
You got a month.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like, what I want to do is, first of all, I'm going to use this to work through a lot of the back catalog. I started the blog in June.
I'm sorry, did you say bat catalog?
Back cat.
Oh, I
back.
heard bad cat.
I did
heard
too!
Batman.
I was like, Andrew, you
I got really excited.
I
I live
started-
with Batman.
I hit the month. mic. I'm
Don't
sorry.
We're actually,
Damn it!
We're actually in the Batcave right now. You
We
guys
are.
have just been too stupid to notice all the bat paraphernalia everywhere.
It's because you hide it.
But no, I started the blog back in June with the intention of not only reviewing new stuff as it came out, but also working my way through other releases from 2013 that my blog had to do a round of review. Stuff that came out in March, April, yada yada yada. Some of my favorite albums came out earlier in the year, but I didn't review them because I didn't have a blog yet. So originally, I was going to kind of do like a new album, then an old album, then a new album, then an old album, while still keeping all in 2013. Well, that went to shit pretty quick because I just didn't write anything.
You're
So-
just like, man, I have all these video games to
In
play.
part, Rocktober is still going to be about hitting the new releases that come out. There's a new album from Dance Gavin Dance that just leaked yesterday that I'm so excited about.
Every time I hear their name, I get Dance Dance by Fall Out Boy stuck in my
Dance
head.
Dance. The new Framing Hanley album is due out by the end of the month, and I love those guys to death.
You're friends with their friends.
I don't want to be that guy, but I
Okay.
do communicate.
You don't wanna
with-
drop
I
names.
do communicate with their lead singer on a semi-regular basis, and
pretty
play
cool.
fantasy football with him. It's pretty neat.
Rad.
What's the name of his team?
Is it dumb?
This season, he's a Jacksonville Jaguars fan.
Okay.
Boo!
Sorry.
It really
I
sucks
hate
for
you.
him.
I hate you, Nixon.
I pity him so hard.
Worse.
But their quarterback's name is Blaine Gabbert.
Oh,
He sucks
okay.
at life. He's awful.
He's just, that's why you don't know his name.
But his team name this year is Yo Gabba Gabbert,
I love it.
That's pretty
which is
solid.
probably the best one in the
It
league.
should also be noted that I'm the only one at this table that cares about this, but Mogo's Monsters landed their first victory this week
So proud of
in
you.
my fantasy football league.
Moco's
And
Monsters.
all it took
Is that
was
you?
Is that your team?
It's a comic book themed league. So
Okay.
and I'm the only motherfucker who, well, I'm like one of 3 people in a 12-person league that actually has a picture for like the team, and it's like this really epic like splash page picture of like 3/4 of Mogo, who's a planet from Green Lantern.
Yeah, I
he's
remember.
like the biggest Green Lantern, and it just has the sun behind it, and it's really majestic. and I typed the name in all caps on accident, so it's just Mogo's Monsters. Go ahead. I'm done.
On a related note, my fantasy football team's name is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yes.
Or Aaron Rodgers.
Named for Aaron
yes.
Rodgers.
Aaron
and
Rodgers'
my team
neighborhood.
picture is a picture of Aaron Rodgers with sunglasses and like an American flag. He just looks like an American hero. So anyway, new albums from Dance Gavin Dance, Framing Hanley, Panic at the Disco's new album just came out. That stuff I'm definitely going to get to.
They still exist.
They do
I
still
forgot about
exist.
Are they a whole once again, or are they still one?
There's only
halves?
2 of the original
Ooh,
members.
Okay,
left.
so they're
that.
halves.
How did
Okay.
they split?
Yeah.
Or was it creative difference?
I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you. I honestly haven't cared a lot about them to follow all the drama.
I broke up with a girlfriend because of that.
I would just as likely assume that they stopped making music after a fever you can't spit out.
Yeah.
So
What if you can split up the fever?
then do it. Nobody wants to have a fever. Oh my God. Go ahead.
on.
Continue.
So,
Yours.
so I'm going to hit those, but then I've also got a lot of my favorite albums from earlier in the year that I never got a chance to review.
Right.
Fall Out Boy, Paramore, Bring Me the Horizon.
Bring it to me.
Oh, and the Danger Kids album. I'm really excited to finally sit down
It's
and
so
review.
fucking good.
It's been a really positive one. So yeah, basically that's my big news for the week is for the first time ever, my blog is going to be relevant and
Awesome.
updated pretty frequently. I'm going to just post the shit out of it on Facebook because I'm going to try and bring people in. Half the reason I'm doing reviews every other day is because I want to get people in the habit of like constantly checking it. Because obviously in the past I've had such a shitty update schedule that you can check like once every 2 weeks, and if you're lucky, there's one new review. So there's no incentive to keep
Yeah.
going back.
Also, it'll be in the a link to it will also be in every episode this month of like the description. A link to his website will be in
It's
every episode.
Rocktober, motherfucker. But
Yeah,
I'll
there you
repeat it one more time. It's rockrelapse.com now.
All one word,
All it
lowercase.
is, just one word. And
There's no spaces.
No spaces.
No
No
spaces.
space in the
And no dollars or percent sign 20s.
there are 7 reviews up that I've written before, and one post introducing the concept of Rocktober. The first review will be up at some point tonight, and
What are you reviewing tonight?
I haven't decided.
God damn it, Andrew!
No, I'm kidding. It's probably going to be Danger Kids.
Cool.
I've already got 3 or 4 of them written up because what I'm doing is I'm changing up. This is actually really great. We've been wanting to talk about writing styles,
Yeah.
so I'm going to segue perfectly into that.
Well,
What I'm
hold
going
on.
to do.
Let's plug
Jake.
stuff
Jake.
first, real quick, and then we'll go to writing because we need to.
Fair
talk
enough.
about that.
Just come back to me.
I promise we will,
Okay.
because
I'm
I've
bad
been
at
wanting to talk
remembering
about that
stuff.
too.
I'm bad at remembering stuff. Can you put his website in the description of this episode for me?
I'm doing it. That's what I just said.
He said he was going to do
Yeah. I fumbled over it though because I was distracted.
Okay, well, clarification.
But yeah,
Like a
I'm
hot
putting
lady
it.
in this basement.
Oh
So
man, no, there's like 12 of them, and don't leave the 11 out. I
they're
mean,
just all
ladies,
silent
say hi to
because
everybody.
of, like,
Hello.
think we fooled him. I think
they bought it.
now.
I think they bought it.
I didn't believe it, but then I heard the voices
Yeah,
and
it'll-
like there are definitely 12 ladies.
Oh,
right there,
man.
12, totally 12.
I don't think you committed to that bit strongly enough.
No,
I
you
didn't. I just kind of watched you guys.
You didn't even. It's just that side of
I
the
wasn't-
table was
because
just
I-
like, I'm not doing this.
Didn't
And
even
this
try.
side
I
of the
wasn't
table.
even a part of that.
No, I'll put a link to it in every episode we post this month.
Okay,
And probably after that, I mean, fuck, you'll keep updating it. So.
but yeah, Mitch has a good point. Does anyone else need to plug their current works? in
I'd like to
progress?
plug something. real
Go,
quick.
Mitchell.
Name of podcast.
For a while now, I've been part of a horror web series. I talked about it probably a little bit in an earlier
horror web
podcast.
Yes. Wait. HORROR or WHOR?
Like scary, like
Horror.
Like
that
scary
doesn't,
horror.
that doesn't answer my
Scary
question.
horrors.
That doesn't.
But
Did you elaborate?
it's called. Oh shoot! It's called Shadowbound.
You're
It's.
in it and you couldn't remember.
I'm not in it. I'm assistant. I guess you'd call it scenic designer.
Oh, okay.
I'm helping to make it, and I don't know. What
Basically,
Do you
yeah.
paint landscapes?
Huh?
Do you paint landscapes?
I make them occasionally.
I build mountains.
Mitch, can you bring me a tree? From the
I
side
could
tree?
maybe bring you a tombstone.
That's not a tree.
No.
Can you bring me?
I could bring you a scary tree.
Yes.
With the tombstone on it.
Oh my god,
Built
do it.
into it.
Can, no, like hanging like up in the branches. Like, stuck
Yeah,
there.
like it just ended up there.
Here lies tree.
Like it grew under the tombstone and raised it up in the air.
Oh my god, I need that. Okay, so go ahead.
But anyway, we have episodes 1 through 3, I believe, shot. Our editor is going kind of slow because he's also our main camera guy, our main lighting guy. So he has a
Sounds like he's
main
making a lot of
everything. So
excuses to me.
he's yeah, sure. But he does a ton of projects around town. But we're all really excited for this one because episode 1 is finally going to be aired online. We're not sure what time, but it will be online at the end of the month.
Is it gonna be streamed or is it gonna be like uploaded?
Streamed and uploaded.
Nice.
We already have a couple like secret packages for people who have uploaded stuff with us on Kickstarter, and it's
You didn't tell me there was a Kickstarter.
there is a Kickstarter for this one. Yeah,
Can I still do it? I
Oh,
want a secret
definitely.
Package.
definitely,
I'll give you $5.
No. Don't give us your money.
definitely.
Don't do it.
We're doing some
Psychology.
we're doing some really cool stuff. Like our main guy originally is a big theater makeup guy, and he loves making horror movies. He loves making scary things, and so I've seen a handful of his full out costumes, and it looks terrifying. You know, apparently in our 5th episode, we somehow have the means to light a guy on fire for one of our scenes. And
I think
so,
everybody has the means.
Yeah,
Oh, of course.
I mean, shit, I could
Of
light
course.
you on fire.
I got a line
Right
upstairs.
now.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's light you on
I
fire.
got like 12 of them in my car.
Who's to
I used
say I'm
smoke,
not?
I mean.
But we're all really excited for that. Episode 1 of Shadowbound is going to be uploaded on October 31st. There's a good chance you can find me posting the links on my Facebook at Mohawk Justice everywhere.
Literally, just Google Mohawk
Just
Justice.
find-
He's
you'll
the
find it.
only thing you
You'll
find.
probably find
Giving
me.
out your Facebook on a podcast, man. You're gonna have bitches crawling all over your
They-
shit.
Bitch.
I
I
know.
don't know if we actually
Including
have
the
any
12 in
female
this
listeners.
I know of at least one.
Okay, there's
Take that.
no.
Take
There's
that to
two.
the bank.
There's 2 because you have yours and my mother.
That's it.
Oh, there you go. We just doubled.
Oh snap!
Well, and
Two
see,
bitches.
we have to assume Tess at least thought about listening to last week's episode, right?
We have
Yeah.
to hope. Yeah.
You must have at least like it crossed your mind like I might.
Didn't
listen
she
to
when
that
we were on
podcast.
her?
So I mean, that's 2.5.
That's
When we were on
practically
her,
watching
didn't she
it.
say she like didn't listen to ours or something?
She didn't yet.
No, she didn't yet. That's what it was. Which yet means she's probably not going to. That's okay though.
Which means she
I
never
don't
would.
expect it from her. Or
She was there. She
Yeah.
experienced
She
it. It's
doesn't
alright.
have to listen.
It's
to
true.
It.
It's a
Right.
miracle I listened to it.
Our podcast with her was pretty good too. I don't know if she's gonna upload it though.
I'm curious, yeah.
I want to know. I'll
Plug that
watch
real
it.
quick.
Oh, you
actually.
guys-
Oh yeah, well, yeah. So we had Tess on last week, not episode 6, but episode 5. She does improv at the Skinny Improv here in town, and she's a comedian. She does all this. She's in a band too.
Yes, she is.
If
Um,
you actually listen to our podcast, you would already know all of this.
Well, maybe
So-
listen. You're the one who's always like, we
No,
have to do name and
no.
everything.
See, I'm talking down to people who are just now joining.
Well,
Andrew-
the parade.
Maybe I was drunk. Okay?
Maybe Brandon was shit faced and he couldn't come to play.
Maybe. Maybe. I'm not saying I was. Maybe I
Maybe
was.
he
We're not
went
confirming
really, really
anything,
hard.
nor
Anyway,
deny it.
Tess was on our podcast last week, and in return, we went and we guest starred on her podcast. It was me and Mitch, and it went really well, I think.
Check it out. It should be coming out anytime soon on Nighttime with Tess Divine.
Yeah.
Check it out.
And I'll set a link to it on our Work in Progress Facebook page
We're gonna
too.
have links everywhere.
Yeah.
All links.
Links linking to other links.
Also,
that'd be
I'll
great.
put a. I'll
If this were a
even put another
YouTube thing,
link
we'd
to-
have yeah.
Yeah, to Shadowbound.
Yes,
I'll put a
check
link
it
to
out.
that too. whenever it's available, and the Kickstarter even.
Oh, sure,
if you want, I'll do that because everybody needs more money, especially me.
Especially, I think that's like the law of the universe. That could be anyone's motto. Everyone needs more money, especially me.
So, Andrew,
More than anyone else.
you said you wanted to talk about the thing that I've been waiting literally 7 episodes now to talk about, and that's writing styles.
So
We mentioned it in the very first episode, and haven't done it.
let me segue easily into this then.
Okay.
So my first 7 reviews on my website are actually a far cry from what I used to do.
Far Cry.
Far cry.
Great game.
Just cause.
No.
Boo!
Sorry.
When I
Thought we were
first
making
started
jokes.
reviewing music in high school / freshman year of college, my reviews tended to be 5 to 6 paragraphs long, really in-depth kind of stuff.
Right.
When I rebooted this last year, so to speak, I decided to cut that shit out. I'm going to start doing like 3 paragraphs tops. Really kind of succinct and to the point. Now I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to go even more succinct and to the point.
Fuck line breaks.
Ian, you've read a few Rolling Stones. You know how not when Kanye releases an album, but like
Anybody else?
when anyone who doesn't break the top 10 on the charts releases
Right.
an album, no matter how much space do they
They're
give the
gonna
review
they're
section.
gonna get a basic consideration that's like a 16th of a page.
Yeah,
or something.
they basically get like 5 to 6 sentences.
Only the best.
If that. And so
The reviewer's name and like A minus.
Yeah.
No wait, that's never mind.
Is that
Nah.
Pitchfork?
No,
No,
they do
Pitchfork.
stars.
Pitchfork does numbers.
They do stars.
Have you ever noticed? Actually, this might
Oh,
be true.
Entertainment Weekly does Letterboxd.
That's-
Every time
The
I've
Daily Club.
I've read a review on Pitchfork for something they really liked, and this is by no means like the constant because I fucking hate Pitchfork.
It's a good story of the year album.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. So every time I've read a review on Pitchfork of an album they liked, which is so fucking rare, and it's always like Godspeed, You Black Emperor, or some pretentious.
They liked 2020 Experience Part 1.
Of course they
But
do.
actually didn't like Part 2. Which
What
Really?
the sink? Oh, what the fuck ever.
They're
Guys,
the big
Pitchfork.
they're
differences.
even very similar, so it's almost
Yeah.
like just
Like what the fuck? Man?
Total
Anyway,
bullshit.
it's they review just I can't.
they're silly.
But whenever it's a good review or whenever it's a review for something they really like, it's always much shorter than the reviews where they get like D's.
Their
or
rage
like bad rate.
expands.
Yeah,
more
like
than their love.
they're literally just writing to hate.
Well, no,
it seems like.
See, in my
Yeah,
experience,
sums
the,
up Pitchfork.
the
one.
easiest reviews to write are the negative ones. The
Yeah,
super
I
negative
agree.
ones. The hardest
Oh,
ones to
yeah,
write
man.
are average stuff that you just can't think of anything one way or the other to say about it.
'Cause it's
That's
very
really hard to
Because it's
write.
average, yeah.
But the easiest reviews I've ever written are albums that were just awful.
Do you
when,
remember the Bad Album That Sucks award that we did when
Yeah.
we were doing shit, what was it
Bad
called?
Album That
Rockfest or whatever?
It's the Bats Award.
Yeah, the Bats Award. Are you reviving that for October?
I might
You
think
should,
about
you
it.
should.
I
Maybe that's Halloween.
I might
a
think
few
of
awards.
doing year-end awards. But it
That
probably
actually is
won't
kind of
be
cool.
happening.
I like
That'd be good
that
for
idea.
Halloween.
Did you ever
Yeah.
read that? It was a band called Scissors for Lefty. They won the Bad Album.
I
That
remember
Sucks award.
That's a great name.
But no, see,
So bad.
the most fun I've ever had writing a review is years and years ago I wrote a review for Saliva's album Cinco Diablo,
Oh God.
which was absolutely awful. And I had so much fun writing that review. It's like 6 paragraphs and I didn't struggle through any of it. I just sat down and started writing every stupidly bad thing I could think about. It was so easy. Same thing with the Falling in Reverse album that I
Okay.
talked about on the unaired pilot.
What are you talking about? We never recorded
What?
episode 1.
I'm going to keep mentioning
You
it.
guys keep talking about this thing we
What?
never did.
The worst review I've put up on my new blog is by this band called Falling in Reverse, and it got 1 star out of 5. And I had fun writing that review because it's really bad.
At least it wasn't
It's
0
just
stars.
so
Have
much
you
fun.
ever done like less than one?
I think I
-1.
Negative 1
I
star.
think I gave
Negative
Cinco Diablo a 1.5, but I was using a 10-star scale back then, so that's
Oh.
really harsh.
0.75 stars.
Yeah.
Lowest review in history.
The way I see it, it would have to be just truly awful for me to
Yeah.
Right.
really sink below even 1 star. Because like the Falling in Reverse album, there were at least a song or two where I was like, yeah, this isn't bad.
There are a few
It's a
saving
fairly
graces.
average song. The hook isn't awful. The lyrics are passable. It's like this song is not bad. I would probably have to listen to like a 10-song album that's just all horseshit all the way through for me to be like 0 stars.
Right.
There's nothing redeemable about this album.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
at least like in Falling in Reverse, I can be
Well-
like, I guess if you like this band before, you might like these 3 songs. Like,
Yeah.
Bringing that into a larger point, I find that's not just with albums. Like any movie that I see or TV
Oh,
show,
yeah.
it's a lot easier to point out what I fucking despise.
I agree.
But when I see something great, I'm like, why was it great? Because
Because it was
Because it
great.
was.
There's a name
sucked.
there's a name for that, and it's a psychological effect where we remember things we don't
Oedipus
like.
complex?
It's, no,
Oh, my mistake. Is that
Ian.
wrong?
Arachnophobia?
Is this some really long German word?
no.
That's the fear of clowns, right?
God, I'm on a show with a bunch of retards. It's the idea that
English is
people remember bad things much more clearly and much more often
Then
than
they remember good
things.
things.
Yes.
And I can't for the life of me remember what it was. But
Pessimism.
Well, not to mention
No.
when you watch,
Optimism?
when you
Damn
watch a
it.
really good movie,
Existentialism.
Something like that.
if I rub your head, will you stop?
And then grant you 3 wishes.
you watch a really good movie, you basically find yourself saying the same things you say about any really good movie. Like if I were to like,
The acting was great.
It was pretty.
It was
that's exactly. If I had to take like my top 5 movies of the year or whatever, I was telling you earlier, my 3 favorite movies of the year are probably The World's End, This Is the End.
I love that, right?
And Mud. And I was like, okay, how do I praise these movies? Okay, well, they're all very well shot. They're all carried by great performances. 2 of them are absolutely hilarious.
Yes.
One of them has
Yeah.
fantastic creature
Mud
design.
has moments of fighting. Hilarious.
I guess.
I guess. But yeah, you can. The writing is great. All of this stuff, sound editing, it's all fantastic. You can just go on and on, but inevitably you're saying the same thing about all these movies.
Right.
It's like if I'm taking 2 of my favorite movies, like The Social Network and Jaws or whatever, they couldn't be
Yeah.
more different in like
Shout out to
material.
you.
Right.
But ultimately, they are
You
movies.
say a lot of similar things.
Yeah, great direction, great acting, great
Which is
pacing,
hard to
yada,
get
yada, yada,
specific
yada, yada. Whereas
But, like-
bad things typically have so many different things that go horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
You can point out specifically, like, her nose was weird.
We play our cards right. We might be able to
Terrible.
segue into Man of Steel doing this.
Oh my
too.
god, you're right.
Okay.
Let's not. Let's. Is there wood down here? There's wood right here. Shit. Okay.
That wasn't me.
Knocked on wood.
Jay,
No one's gonna hear that. It's
Jay,
okay.
No, fuck it.
we'll edit that out.
Shut. I'm not gonna edit that. I don't think you understand how little I do to edit this podcast.
No, but like I feel like you can almost learn more about the subject by watching bad movies or by listening to bad songs.
Yes.
It teaches you more about what you do like and what
Yes.
you do enjoy. Like I almost feel when you're trying to write a movie, you learn most from watching really bad movies.
A friend of ours is
to
actually
find these pitfalls.
a good friend of ours is now teaching a theater and 1 film class out in Idaho.
Oh Christ.
And
No,
I was-
is it Idaho? I thought it was Iowa. No, it's Idaho.
It's Idaho.
He's in Idaho.
Yeah.
And we had been talking about what he wanted to do for his like curriculum, and he said, "I want to make my final project just showing them a really bad movie, and then they have to list out and explain every single bad thing about it."
The Room.
We all told him that,
20-page paper.
It's such a go-to.
and he just
though.
went, "I can't
Well, he
because it's in a
cannot
high
possibly
school."
show that.
No, not even. I recommended the really bad and fantastic Zelda fanfic.
Shit.
Batman and Robin.
He thought about
There's a
Batman
good
and
one.
Robin. He's
That-
probably going to do Batman and
There's a
Robin.
good one.
Because that's even a great example of where like even a big budget Hollywood production can,
Can
go
say-
horribly,
yeah,
horribly
can fail.
wrong.
And
With
also,
George Clooney.
no,
in it.
and what's
You
even
know,
worse
big
is that it's
names.
a big budget Hollywood thing
Gonna
that
move
was
these away from you.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Make me get up to get them. It was a big budget Hollywood thing with like big name actors that was also meant to be terrible in like a funny way, and it just fails.
It's supposed to be like campy and fun.
Yeah, and
but
it wasn't.
Like Batman Forever was.
Yeah,
Yes.
Batman Forever is campy and fun. It's
Yeah.
not a great movie, but it's fun. Batman and Robin
It's
is
certainly
not
more
fun.
fun than Batman and Robin. I mean, that one hurts you.
Batman and Robin's only fun to sadists like us who love sitting down and watching bad movies. Like,
Yeah.
Don't lump me in with you.
Well, no, I was talking more about us.
We
Oh,
used
okay,
to do
you
that,
too.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'd like to continue doing that actually whenever we have a
Yeah,
spare
it's
day.
good stuff.
Another. We were just talking about Chris.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say his last name because he's a teacher and I can't say his last name.
Right.
But he
It's
really-
texted me.
it's really hard to pronounce.
Yeah, it is. He texted me about the band. He was doing band books week,
Okay.
and he texted me. I think I told you this already, but he was like, "Jake, I'm doing band books week, and I'm thinking like I'm trying to find ideas." And this was like Monday night, so he'd already done.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He'd already been there one day, and he'd already been doing it for one day, so he had done one book already. And he's like, "So, do you have any ideas for me?" And I was like, "Well, okay, what have you done? Maybe that'll narrow it down."
Right.
And he's like, "Well, today I did the Anarchist Cookbook."
No.
Just opened up the gates.
Quite
with
literally
that.
starting with a bang.
Yeah.
Ho!
Boo.
I don't get it.
And
I
our
don't-
cookbook.
Yeah.
Making bombs.
Isn't it like really bad lasagnas?
That's it's just a
No,
recipe.
man, the lasagnas are the bomb.
Oh!
Somebody stop him.
We had duct tape somewhere.
I'm on fire right now.
I've actually been
You're
told
about to
that
be on fire.
a buddy of mine found books that are more dangerous than that. I think they're called the Poor
The
Man's
Twilight
James
Saga?
I
Bond.
think the Anarchist Cookbook was kind of like made an example of because it's
Yes,
Yeah.
but like I think he called them the Poor Man's James Bond. It was a series, and it was instead of like how to
this
make
was
like
actual fiction.
yeah, like this was actual like literature. And
Okay.
instead of like making like small bombs, it was like
How to construct.
mortars. Like,
Oh Christ!
do you
Like,
want
like
to
war
do you want to
machines?
hold back the police for a good day? Here's how.
You want to level up a skyscraper.
Trap them
Yeah.
in the sewers.
Yes, and it was so, and he's just like, yeah, that makes the Anarchist Cookbook look like
Child,
nothing.
Like Harry
Like
Potter.
first grade.
It's fucking
Potter.
Padre.
makes like how to boil water. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So anyway, keep going.
Is
Yeah.
there a
No,
book-
I was. There was literally like.
is there a book called How to Boil Water?
I know it was a
Page.
show.
I want to make a play
What?
about
Yeah,
it.
there's
That
a-
have nothing
I'm
to do
pretty
with
sure
it.
there's a show on Food Network called How to Boil Water.
See-
And I think maybe it was a book. Maybe it was a book, and I'm missing.
Genius.
I couldn't tell you one way or the other, but if that was the name of a program, I imagine the point is like teaching relatively simple cooking techniques.
I know, but
Yeah.
there's got to be a better title for
Probably. Anyway, so
Ian, you're on a podcast called Work in Progress. let's be real.
that. No, wait, we should transition to Man of Steel.
we're still on writing.
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
not done yet, Ian.
I'm sorry.
I
Go
need
on.
to address this. So anyway,
It's
what I'm going to
writers.
start doing, one of the ways that I'm going to make Rocktober happen and actually write 16 reviews in 31 days is I'm going to kind of take to that Rolling Stone blurb writing style,
Right.
where it's just basically try and cram everything important into 6 sentences.
Nice.
Just do like a meaningful paragraph about the album and just leave it at that. Maybe even come up with a
probably
little
a good idea.
tagline to draw some attention. Because I don't usually write like taglines. So it's a waste of my time.
I am the king of taglines.
But, you know, I'm going to try and do that. They'll just be nice and succinct, and they'll keep me fresh and constantly putting out new stuff, and it'll feel really good. So, but, I mean, I've written a bunch of different ways. Like I said, I started at probably like 5 or 6 paragraphs back in the day, and I kind of did like this doesn't work with music, but like the rare time when I would review like a movie or something in depth. Roger Ebert's style was always kind of to explain
about
the
everything.
rough synopsis of the movie for probably 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then start delving into other stuff. So for a while there, whenever I reviewed like movies or anything, I was kind of taken to that. But then I realized I don't really like doing that, and
Movies are hard.
movies are kind of hard to really go in depth on without ruining
Without
it.
spoiling
Is
it?
kind of-
Yeah.
is kind of the thing. I think that's why I like taking to music, because you can't really spoil an album. Like,
There's, I mean, unless it's like
I don't
a
know,
rock
man.
opera, maybe.
yeah, but like I can tell you that this song is like super intense and has crazy awesome lyrics or whatever, and you're still not going to be like, oh man, now it's ruined for
That
me.
motherfucker.
Because great music is meant to be listened to over and over and over
Yes.
again anyway. It's not like a great movie, but you still might only watch it once. Like The Exorcist, I have no reason to ever watch again. I'm fucking watch that and I'm good. But like,
Speaking of which, everyone
hit my
should see
quota.
The Conjuring because I think it is.
I hear it's
I've been hearing a lot of
It's
good
probably
things.
the closest we can get to a good exorcism movie since The Exorcist.
yeah.
And then
It's-
they've tried so hard.
They really did,
Over and over.
and it's so fucking good. Oh my god. Anyway, continue.
But anyway, so I think while we're on writing, what we wanted to get going on a long time ago, whenever this conversation
Episode 1,
originally came up,
first episode.
was kind of how you guys sit down and write things, because
Yeah.
I think it came about because of Vince Gilligan and Breaking Bad. Again, I could segue this into something, but I'm not going to. How Vince Gilligan and his writers wrote Breaking Bad was basically just sitting down and starting to flesh it out from the start. They didn't have an end game in mind.
Right.
Right.
But, some people do. Like, J.K. Rowling for years swore that she knew exactly how Harry Potter was going to unfold the entire time.
George Lucas, for years, said, I knew exactly what was going
George
on."
Lucas
Bad
also
example, bad
well-renowned liar.
I tried to.
I wanted to give like a counterpoint.
I was trying to go up with a good example with these here, but no. For years, and I do believe her, but for years and years and years, the story goes that she basically knew exactly how Harry Potter would go
No,
the
'cause,
entire
like,
time,
the
and just
end came
fleshed
on
out
a
little
train,
details
didn't it?
along the way. But for the most
Sure.
part, she knew the whole thing. So I don't write fiction. I don't know how that shit goes. So I'm not in a place to put this. I can
We
talk
kinda
about how
do.
I
I
write.
know.
I can talk about how I write reviews and shit, but. I think what I originally wanted to get to is, you've written screenplays, Ian. Mitch has written a comic book, Sparky.
I've been published 10 times.
Yeah, as you see, you guys are fucking all over the map. So I guess
Stop
I just kind of
now.
wanted to get some insight into how you guys write stuff. Like, do you have the end game in mind, or do you just kind of sit down and start going and see where it takes you?
Let's start with Ian because his stuff is more palatable because it's a lot more like movie based.
Hear that? You're palatable.
Okay, well,
You appeal to the wide range of
script
people.
writing is probably one of the most interesting and frustrating kinds
Yes.
of writings you can indulge in. Like, there's a lot of creative shit that goes into it, and it has to be a lot of creative elements into it, but the form itself demands it be as technical and short as possible. Like, you can't spend any time with pros or nobody cares. And they literally do not care. And you're talking about
I give zero
this
shits.
kind of like high pressure, a lot of competitive kind of writing where they need to decide if this is worth anything because they have 1,000 more to go through by tomorrow. That kind of craziness. Like, so you really can't make any mistakes, so you have to use every sentence very wisely. So that kind of intimidates you in the kind of writing style where you just jump into it.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you want to plan because you're afraid you want every sentence to work, and you feel like if you plot it, you know, I'm gonna make cards and shit.
Yeah.
And like
Have a
different-
fucking board
have
with
a fucking
strings.
board with the strings on it, like a conspiracy theory, something intense. But I found after burping.
Jesus, thank you. I was
Just
gonna
now.
say, excuse him.
I found after trying that it really leads to kind of a hollow experience. If you plot things out and you follow them with pure determination, you find that you're abandoning ideas that come to mind as you write them.
I would.
And the straight, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
It's just amazing that most of the genius doesn't come when you're sitting there like the thinker, you know, doing a little pose like, all right, this is what's going to happen next.
Do you
that's
have to
good.
be on the toilet when you do that? Because I assume you are.
Just
Right.
like
That would help, right?
Yeah,
a
exactly.
stool works all right.
Yeah,
you know,
it
a little
fits.
chair.
It just feels
As long as you
right.
got the pose.
Exactly.
But
The
you
pose
know,
of the
you're-
beard that you
you're
can just keep
Yeah.
on.
considering plot lines, and you find that, I mean, plot lines, despite this kind of high pressure atmosphere, aren't really the biggest point as to like making it enjoyable to read page per page.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that when you're focused on reaching that next goal that you've laid
Yes.
out up on your board of strings and index cards, right? But I've heard it both ways. I mean, you know, you hear the advice of a lot of other people who have written screenplays, and some are like, "Oh, I've done both." You know,
Yeah.
some stories lend themselves to being plotted out, while others I just sat down and I just went right into it. While others have said they purely stick to one type of style. I personally am still trying to figure it out as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because while you're so close at making everything worthwhile, it makes it difficult to actually have the overall arc of a film, your 90 minutes, actually means something.
Yeah.
Which is kind of one of the unwritten rules, is that you want your story to mean something, you know, to have a theme, to have some sort of thing. So that's kind of like the two sides of the philosophies, is like, plot it out or jump into it like a madman.
And usually in situations like that, it's you.
In
The
some
best plan
use
is
of
for a
both,
brain.
and you
Yeah.
find this
Yeah.
area in between that works for you and works for the story, because it's not always you. It's
Yes.
just the type of story you're writing.
Before we ever get to where Mitch is going to go, I just want to point out one of my favorite things about screenwriting.
Yeah.
Is I love how many little details go into screenwriting that some of the better writers will use that never even make it to screen because they're kind of in the details. And the example I always come to that I just dug up is Shane Black is the guy who wrote Lethal Weapon and Kiss
Oh,
Kiss
yeah.
Bang Bang and Iron Man 3.
They direct all of those also.
He directed Kiss Kiss and Iron Man.
Okay.
He did not direct
Iron Man
Lethal
3,
Weapon.
not the first or second one.
But Lethal Weapon was his big break. He wrote that
Sure.
movie. And a notable excerpt from his script that gets brought up time and again when people discuss Shane Black's
In Lethal
style
Weapon?
is this. Yeah, this is from Lethal Weapon. And it goes like this. Exterior, posh Beverly Hills home at twilight. The kind of house that I'll buy if this movie is a huge hit. Chrome, there's chrome, glass, carpwood, plus an outdoor solarium, a glass structure, like a greenhouse, only there's a big swimming pool inside. This is a really great place to have sex.
That's really
Just
great.
drives home the overarching point to what he's
Well, and
saying.
getting away from the two philosophies, like in script writing,
It's
those
very
are very
visual.
succinct sentences. You know,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
tell a lot.
And it's
You know, like, what would you do if you were a fucking millionaire? The most luxurious fucking place.
Oh, yeah.
Places to have sex everywhere.
Oh, yeah, and his scripts are
And it's
full
all
of
in
that.
very in very succinct little details, or just sentences where he just straight out tells you, this is a good place.
yeah.
It's like I've read his scripts for Lethal Weapon and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang simply because reading them is almost like watching an entirely different film. He's got a great bit, and I think the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang script where there's like a room that's just cluttered full of shit, and it's like, imagine if you dropped all of your things out of an airplane. This is how they'd land.
I like that.
And like it's not only like funny,
Drones
it makes
over,
happy,
like,
but the
150
detail is there
feet.
in your head.
Yeah,
Like, it's not just a joke; it's a great detail.
your script helps to grab attention in that regard, but it also really paints the picture.
Yeah,
really well.
absolutely.
And
It's
that's
just like you just immediately capture that
And that's
visual.
like
You're
the
like, okay, I got it.
pinnacle. It's like the fucking pinnacle of screenwriting
There's
in
a-
some respect.
That's a common trait even in something like. I'm sorry, I bumped the mic.
No,
My
don't.
bad. I fucked it up. I'm sorry.
Mike bump.
Spike.
So, yeah, I'll be fine. So in comic book writing too, it's very common for writers because you don't the layman, much in the same way with movies, they're never gonna fucking see the non-dialogue text.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's either going to be translated to a picture or it's just going to be dropped entirely. So in comic books, and I think it's Alan Moore, who's with his crazy
Warlock.
his crazy warlock beard. He is notorious for writing like what his characters are feeling, what they're thinking, even if it's fucking
Like,
irrelevant.
absolutely
Oh, yeah.
Like
everything.
yeah, absolutely
Oh,
fucking.
It's like a
everything.
resource for the artist.
Yeah,
kind of.
exactly.
Oh god,
Um,
I left the oven on.
Yes, exactly. And
Like
like
going to fart.
Hold it in.
There's bits of the Watchmen script, I think, and I'm notorious for
Vein
being the
strips.
motherfucker who doesn't like Watchmen because it's.
What a motherfucker.
We'll talk about Watchmen.
You're horrible.
I am, man.
Mr.
I'm
Terrible.
So fucking terrible. But it's not even just with him. It's with a lot of writers. They will write these things that literally serve no purpose other than to maybe like amuse the artist or amuse the editor or
Right.
just really punch home what they're feeling about whatever is happening. And a lot of times it's put so bluntly and it just comes off as like comical.
Yeah.
Because it's like not even that it's not even to the point where you're like, all right, I got what was happening, and then you drove it home again, and that's funny. It's just like I didn't understand what you were saying until you said that, and then it clicked.
Well, like, I'm going to segue then into that because you mentioned that I'm writing a comic, and I am. And the only way that I truly know how to write is how I speak. So I'm very to the point. Unless I'm trying to be like subtle or trying to keep things a secret, I'm very just to the point. This is how I speak. So I've got plenty of just paragraphs of just like trying to describe what's going on, and then like I've got one scene, for example, where just a whole bunch of I wrote like these guys look like thugs, and it's just them punching the main character. And at one point, he gets a second wind, punches one of them, looks up, and I just wrote like he sees them, the assholes that they are. And I started getting like I didn't describe them like what they were wearing. I'm just like these are.
Yeah, you leave it to
These
the artist.
fucking assholes.
Like,
And,
that's,
whatever like the artist thinks of like what's an asshole, and it doesn't matter to me if it looks like his neighbor Chad or I don't know.
It's just like
anything.
three
And,
black
like one of
people.
the things
Yeah.
that
Your artist is a racist.
one of the things that sucks and at the same time is great
Yes.
about like comic book writing, which I've also studied,
Mhm.
and it's kind of similar in
It
some
is.
aspects.
It is.
to
it's
screenwriting.
much
In some
it's
aspects.
much looser.
It's much looser.
There's like
But you
far
still like
fewer
your
rules.
so to
Yeah.
speak, your bulleted points.
Yeah,
You know, this
yeah.
guy's talking. This is happening here. Switch to.
Yeah.
You know, it's still technical. I'll
Yeah.
put it that way. You know, but a lot of the stuff you learn in normal writing, if you're in an English
Oh, yeah.
class, it doesn't. A lot of it doesn't really help you. Like,
doesn't,
you
no.
never write these guys look like thugs in a short story.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Never
Mhm.
write
That's not
that
how
in a
that shit
short
works.
story.
You need to paint the picture with your words.
Yeah.
But
There's
in
no
a,
end result.
Oh, yeah.
in a comic script or even in a screenplay, that's a
totally.
perfect, like, these guys look like thugs.
Yeah.
Let's not be around the fucking bush. You and I, we know what thugs look like, or at least the guy you're going to hire
Yeah.
to make him look like thugs
Right.
is going to know
Yeah.
what thugs look like.
Batman turns and sees a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah.
You mentioned
That's a good line.
You mentioned like the lost dialogue and scripts. A buddy of mine several years ago, we went to some Hollywood store and we found
Some Hollywood story.
we were in Hollywood, but it was just called
yeah,
like
he has a
some
friend that
Hollywood
lives
store.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. I thought you meant like a store here.
Oh no no
That
no!
was
Like
about
Planet
Hollywood.
I went to
Or
Hollywood Video.
How
So they
long
sold
ago
like
was the story?
they sold like a lot of just movie and like prop paraphernalia.
Sure.
And one thing was they had these like a bunch of crates of like it wasn't the actual scripts, but it was like copies, of
reprints.
copies.
Yeah.
And he ended up buying like for $5 the script for the first episode of Heroes.
Oh, wow.
And it's awesome because every now and then the writer had to just show like he was also like a cartoonist or something.
Yeah.
So like every so often there'd be like just this big like picture. Like
Huh.
the very last page is honestly like the
That doesn't happen very often.
no, but it was very cool and it added a lot to the story. And one moment that you mentioned in some of that stuff was it's the guy who can like walk through walls.
Kitty Pryde.
Kitty Pryde.
Oh wait, no, isn't that
For the purpose of this
Isn't
story,
that-
it is now Kitty Pryde.
Isn't
No, it ruins this joke
isn't-
actually.
Isn't that Micah's dad?
Yes,
I think
it's Micah's dad.
The kid who can like
the
talk
prisoner
to the
guy.
kids.
Right. Man,
It's
I
the
haven't
prisoner
watched it in
guy.
so long.
Yeah.
And it's like describing his entrance, and they're just like, in comes this guy with his name.
Through the wall.
He is black, he is ripped, he is covered in blood, and then there's a pause, and it just goes, a white man's nightmare.
man.
And again, this was written like quite a while ago, but even then I was like, that's
Wait,
hysterical.
shit, that was only like what,
That's
2007, 2008, something
Yeah,
like that?
Something like that.
Nothing.
I thought it was so funny. But going along with this comic, I've been thinking about it for about like a year until I finally started writing it down. So I have several events that I know what I want to happen, but I also have left room for a lot of stuff in between that I need to fill, and that's kind of
Sure.
makeup as I go. And then on top of the comic, I've written several sketches, like comedy sketches.
Right.
And for most of those, I go in just with the idea, like almost blind idea, and then just see where that goes. But in those cases, most of the time, I have the most difficulty with endings.
Right.
I don't know
Well-
why, but that's
Well,
that's
I've
sometimes the
heard it
case,
many
yeah.
times. Like the hardest part of writing any story is the beginning and
Nope.
the end. Is what
It's-
I've heard from.
For me, is like,
Sometimes.
I'm gonna take back of it. For me, it's literally the exact opposite. If I have an idea for a story, I know exactly how I want it to start, like damn near to the sentence.
Right.
For like the first act, I know exactly how all of it goes,
It's
and
the
I
stuff-
know
the stuff
every-
in between.
it's
you don't
literally
have.
the second act. I can't write a second
Right.
act for the life of me, which is why for me, I have, like you were talking earlier, where you either plot it all out or you just go.
Right.
at it.
Go.
I have to plot it all out. Like, and the way I look at it is that it doesn't really hinder me, I think, to any degree that I'm like so locked in that I can't let other ideas in. It's that other ideas don't come in because I've already gotten them out. Because I plot it out to the finest detail. I absolutely, like, I will write like pages if I think of it. And I'm like, this is exactly how I want this page to go. And then like after that, there might just be something like, and then this broad idea happens. Literally,
Somewhere,
it just,
at some
yeah,
point.
exactly.
Yeah, I
And,
get you.
and after I've plot, like this happened with my fucking with the book series,
Books, yeah.
which the exact same thing happened. I had that first book down. I knew exactly what I wanted to happen, when it wanted to happen, and everything. And then the second book came along and was like, I know how I want to write this.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down, and it took me like a fucking week to get it down to everything was explained enough that I literally just had to type it out as a fucking
Oh
story.
yeah, well a big thing that I've been getting for most of my dialogue, honestly, is like I'll just be in my car and I'll just be thinking out loud. My
Yeah.
MP3 has like a record thing,
Yeah.
so I'll just have conversations with myself, and then I'll normally end it with going, "Remember, write this down."
Do you ever do that and then like halfway through you get really uncomfortable because you realize you're just talking to yourself?
I did, but I'm a theater guy, so I've been doing that for the past like 7 years.
Forever.
Okay, yeah.
So now it doesn't really bother me
That's
anymore
fair.
Well, and it's good to
because I have to do it so often.
work
Yeah.
hard. I mean, that's a good idea if you're trying to get dialogue. Dialogue is great because
Yeah.
if you're trying to figure out how to make something go, whether it be in a story or especially in like a screenplay, figuring out the conversation and then putting in your action, at least for me, is very helpful. You know,
Actually,
'Cause-
hearing
'cause
it.
figuring out how to say how they do certain actions is kind of technical, and you're trying to be
Yeah.
simplistic. But dialogue, if it's good, usually just kind of comes out of you. So it's better to just kind of lay down the groundwork and build stuff around it sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So especially if you're talking an MP3 player to yourself, if you can get past the weirdness.
I can't.
Um,
can't do it.
It probably
I
leads
can't
to
do it.
very,
It's just too weird.
very natural dialogue, I would think.
Because I don't have anyone else in the car who knows the story as well
Yeah.
as I do, and yada yada.
And it's
so.
one of those things where you don't want to sit down and have to explain it to somebody to the point where they will understand exactly.
I wanted to try it once, but it didn't end up working out.
Yeah. I'm reminded because you were talking about how you'll sit there and come up with ideas.
Oh, yeah.
For dialogue and shit. When we lived in the apartment and for a little bit there, when I lived in the house, for whatever reason, I would be driving, and I would just come up with like dope ass rap lyrics.
Yeah.
Or when I thought they were dope ass, so I would like text them to somebody because I didn't have an application on my phone at the time that would like a note
Like record or
application because
anything,
I was
yeah.
a fucking idiot and I just didn't download one.
Right.
But I would have to text them to somebody, and they would be so good that I would text them to like 5 different people, and everyone would automatically respond with, "That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard." Which is really unfortunate because I was so proud of them, and then they're like immediately knocking it down. And then I reread them now. That reminded me because I found them like a fuck ton of them on my computer because I
Nice.
had written them down.
Nice.
It was in a folder that was called rap lyrics.
Of course.
And, and there were like 3 Word documents in there, and each one of them were like full raps, and they were all fucking dumb.
Oh, come on, we have to
They
do
were
them now.
All fucking dumb.
Give
No,
them to me. I'm gonna make them.
not,
We will perform them
No.
on the next episode.
No, we will not.
There's an open mic night going on tomorrow at some bar on Commercial Street, and I'll use it.
Oh, I'm sure there are. There's one like really
Don't
serious
do it
one.
like a rap though. Do it like it's slam
Spoken
poetry.
word.
That's what the
Yeah,
plan was. Yeah, I got my roommate has like a pair of really good bongos, and I just bring that.
There's a line in one of them that's like, "Honey in my lap got the 5-0 in my rear view" or something. Whenever I wrote them, I wrote like the most stereotypical white person trying to be a black guy
Oh, that's even better.
on the face of the planet.
That way, then you can just read it as Shatner.
No, exactly.
It doesn't sound beautiful.
Fantastic.
You said honey in my lap, and my first visual was Winnie the Pooh with one of his jars of honey.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is some hardcore rap shit, man.
We need to find an animator to put these things
Yes, we
to
do.
the screen, and then we post it on YouTube.
that's
That'll be rad.
If you can animate,
I
call
can.
us.
Yeah, please, fucking.
5 on
Before
5.
you call us, though, comment, rate, or review. God damn it. Dude, we have one fucking rating and review, and it's Dewey. We all know who it's for. If you go to iTunes, you'll see it. You know. Who
I haven't gone to iTunes.
It's your mom, isn't it?
No, it's not for you. No, that was the
Yeah,
comment on
sick
Facebook.
burn.
Boom. No, it's from another friend of ours.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I can tell it's
Is it Chris? Yeah, it's Chris.
Knew it. Well, I
It's
said
really
I told him
nice
I'd do
review.
it,
It's like
but-
super short, but I mean, fucking go ahead. Like, I don't care. I
I'm
just
not gonna read
want to know what we're doing wrong.
5
what we're
stars
doing
from
right.
definitely not Andrew.
5 stars. That's your username. Definitely not Andrew.
This is the best podcast I've ever
Oh my
heard.
God.
That one guy whose name is Andrew is hysterical.
If I could just listen to him and not eat food
If
for
I
all
were
my life.
if I were a lady, I would just suck his dick all day.
Yeah, I would.
Man.
It's so good.
So we need
I feel
to,
like this is written by him.
something seems off about this review.
I'm gonna write a review, and it's gonna say this is a podcast.
If
most
you like
uninspiring
podcasts,
review
you
ever.
might like this.
Thumbs up.
So I've been sitting here for like 47, 48 minutes now, and I really want to talk about Man of Steel because
All right,
go for it.
Oh, Man of Steel.
We're gonna hurt some feelings.
Andrew and yeah, we are. If you liked Man of Steel, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Everything that's
They
gonna
do
follow
not
this,
like Man of
I'm
Steel.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
I like the idea.
I
you
really
like the idea of Man of
soundtrack.
Steel?
I've heard about it before.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was
Why?
entertaining.
What do you mean you like
I was
it?
entertained.
It's just Superman's
I
origin.
think it's decent
Oh,
as
no,
a
what am I
popcorn
thinking of?
flick.
Let's
Yeah.
I think it loses.
A minute tomorrow. I think a minute
Entertainment's
tomorrow.
not enough for me for a
It,
fucking popcorn.
it loses a lot of points
Or whatever.
in other areas.
I still don't
Man,
There's
understand.
too
tomorrow.
many stupid points.
Hold
I'm
on,
not
everyone,
entertained anymore.
shut shit up. I can't hear Brandon.
Yeah, we're all looking at my show
I'm
now.
sorry. I was thinking a minute tomorrow.
Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
the script that I was talking to Andrew about.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah. No, that's also really awesome.
No.
No, this is Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Okay,
Dick.
you
This
guys
is not
go
awesome.
back to what you were doing. I
No,
just
it's
couldn't
okay.
fucking
It's
hear.
okay. It's okay.
Man of Tomorrow is the Kevin Smith one, right?
No.
No.
Man of Tomorrow is the script written by. Fuck, I feel really bad because I can't remember his name now.
This
But
isn't the Tim Burton one, is it? No. Good.
Man of Tomorrow. It's not about Superman at all.
Oh, cool.
But it was a screenplay that made it into the 2012 Blacklist, which is
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I've heard
made
about
out
it.
to the blacklist?
Yeah, it's if you don't know what the Blacklist is, the Blacklist is a collection of scripts that come out of Hollywood every year, and it's movies that either have to have they can't have been bought or have entered principal photography by the time by December 31st of that year, and it's less a best of and more of a most liked scripts of that year.
Yeah, most like scripts that have not been made. Like, I remember the first time I saw the blacklist, Django Unchained was on there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Because
Yeah.
it hadn't been,
It hadn't been picked up or
production
made yet, yeah.
But it's still pretty fucking high.
Yeah,
'cause it's
exactly.
goddamn
I heard
Who
fucking-
would
that,
ever make that?
I heard that Saving Mr. Banks, the Mary Poppins movie, being by Disney,
Oh, I've
was
heard
on that
about
list for
Yeah,
a while
absolutely.
now too. And
Like,
I'm
it's
actually
a
really
pretty
interested.
legitimate list that notes a lot of movies. I mean, obviously some of them still never.
Sure,
made it,
yeah, which is
But-
kind of a bummer.
but may
yeah.
still be screenplays worth reading because they are of,
Because of that.
they're of high interest to many agencies.
Very much so. Like
Or,
they're on there because people liked what they read.
Yeah.
Like they're just good stories, and I'm trying to find the guy, Jeremy Slater, maybe. That sounds right.
They wrote
Yeah, no, it's
tomorrow.
Jeremy Slater. His name is Jeremy Slater, and he was slated for not intentional for a brief time to write the Fantastic Four remake that they were doing, the 2015 remake.
God
that
save
they-
that.
No, this is the thing though. Like when I heard, I didn't know who he was when I heard that they were rebooting Fantastic Four, and I was like, "Fucking Fantastic Four, why? Why are you
Right.
doing this?
That's what
Nobody
I thought.
wants to watch it."
No.
And I wrote it off, and then I read Man of Tomorrow, and I was like, I wonder if Jeremy Slater's written anything else. He hasn't. He's written fuck all else.
Really?
But he was slated to write the Fantastic Four remake. Now, and I wanted to see that movie. Like, I wanted to see his Fantastic Four because
did you
Man of
read
Tomorrow.
Did you read his script?
Man of Tomorrow?
No, for the Fantastic Four.
No.
Okay.
But I wanted to see that movie based solely off his script for Man of Tomorrow.
Oh, I
the,
see.
Cool.
the shtick for Man of Tomorrow is that it's like back in the 1940s, like 1941, 1942, something
Right,
like that.
whatever.
And this is an unproduced script from
Yeah,
the
this
Blacklist.
is unproduced from the Blacklist.
Okay.
And I'm not going to like spoil anything, but
Go
whatever.
for it,
But
yeah.
the shtick is that in like 1941, 1942, the U.S. government approaches a mob enforcer by the name of Tommy, who has superpowers. Like he's invulnerable to bullets. He's super strong.
Like all your basic
Yeah,
super duper,
very much Superman powers.
like
I don't think
gold
he can,
age of comics.
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
superpowers.
He can't fly. I don't think, but he has, and he doesn't have like heat vision or anything. It's just
It is
very
Jeremy
much,
Slater.
yeah. It's very much just like physical powers.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But they approach him because they want to kill Hitler, and they're like, "Listen,
To kill what?
Hitler."
Oh,
Because it's during World War II.
okay.
So they approach
the
him and
pitch
they're like, "Listen, if you kill Hitler for us, we will give you the entire city of Chicago."
Wow.
Yeah, because they want to kill Hitler so bad. So he agrees, obviously, because who the fuck wouldn't agree to that?
I
You
want
get a
Chicago.
whole city. Yeah, fuck it.
All you gotta do is kill some random mortal.
Yeah, exactly. Who fucking gives a
With
shit?
my god
Yeah.
powers.
Um,
So he kills Hitler.
So he kills Hitler, and there's this
Spoiler!
really, that scene in the script is actually really fun because it's told from the point of view of Hitler.
Awesome.
So Hitler's like with his people in this like bunker, and it talks about how they hear like this horrible cacophony coming, and like then he like bursts into the room like throwing doors and like breaking
Wow.
people in half and
Cool.
shit. It's really fucking awesome. But after that, he kills Hitler. He gets Chicago, and a few years down the road. Chicago is just desolate. Like, it's not because he's a terrible ruler, it's just that things have
Fucking
gone
Chicago.
wrong.
That's what you get for having
things did,
bears.
he's very much an
What about
idealist,
the Cubs,
and
jackass.
I don't care about the Cubs.
I know you
neither
don't.
does anybody else.
Except for Cubs fans.
Except for Cubs. Next
Oh,
year
yeah.
is your year, man.
So, quick question.
Every
is this
next
script
year is our year.
easy to find online, by the way? Because this sounds
No.
really interesting.
It's not very easy.
All right.
He's got
I have
Have
it, though. I can give
All
it
right,
to you.
I'd like to
He
read it.
stole
yeah.
it. No.
I didn't steal
From the blacklist itself.
James Spader's gonna come and get
The
you.
blacklist isn't even, like, copyrighted.
Oh,
it's
is
not,
that?
like, illegal
Is
to
that?
have
I
it.
don't know, I
It's
haven't
just...
watched it.
I kind of want to see
I
it.
keep getting advertisements on my Kindle.
Yeah.
Maybe
Anyway.
I'll pull it up.
So, okay, anyway, so he kills, and Chicago's just in disarray. Like, everyone's fucking leaving. It's a wasteland. Then enters, the government wants him to leave and give them Chicago back, obviously. So
God.
they send in this detective guy, like, to reason with him.
Okay.
And the same detective has been their liaison with him.
Got it.
because Chicago's basically turned into a country within a country.
Martial law, etc.
Yeah, kind of stuff like that. And while the detective's there trying to reason with him, it's told. Have you guys ever heard of the movie Vantage Point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not the first movie to do this. It won't be the last, but it's told.
Rashomon.
Yeah, it's kind of told from many different
Same
vantage
story,
points.
different.
Yeah,
different
exactly.
people. Yeah.
Until like the third act, when everything is kind of told all at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's so good, and there's a third player in the town. It's Tommy, the detective guy, and then this other motherfucker who.
Is that his name?
The way he's described reminds me of Azrael from the Nightfall series,
from
like Batman's
yeah.
Nightfall stuff, except not as like armory.
I hate him. Okay.
But no, that's just the way he
Nightfall.
looks.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he's trying to kill Tommy because he wants to avenge Chicago.
Cool.
And like the people who have died in Chicago because of the rampant like
Cool, yeah.
villainy. But it's really fucking good. Anyway, I got
definitely
off
gonna want
fucking
Marvel.
topic. What were we? Yeah, I'll give it to you.
You wanted to go into Man of Steel.
We were
Man
gonna
of
do
Steel.
Man of
All right,
Steel.
I got
Man of
distracted.
Steel.
That should probably be our last.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, Andrew and I saw Man of Steel in theaters. I don't know. Has anybody else seen Man of Steel here?
I saw it. Yeah.
You saw it?
I did not.
You
see
didn't.
I saw the first 20 minutes.
I ended up
Saw
going
the
to the
first
midnight
minutes.
release by accident.
Oh God.
I
What do
saw
you mean
it.
by accident?
How do you by accident go
I
to a
got
movie?
drunk and wandered into a movie.
It happened to be Man of Steel
No
on
one cares.
midnight.
Well, what ended up happening was a bunch of my friends ended up being like, "Hey, you want to go see Man of Steel?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's out." And they're like, "Yeah." So we ended up going like Wednesday, and they're like, and this cute little woman just comes up. She's like, "It comes out Thursday at midnight." And so we're like, "Oh." And then I looked at those guys. I'm like, "This is the midnight release." They're like, "Yeah." Oh. Okay.
Well,
So we waited a day.
Wow.
We went back in. Only like 12 of us were in that theater. We found out because most of them were in the other theater that we're playing it.
yeah.
Because we came out with like 12, everyone else came out of this other theater. There was one really cool moment that happened though. This guy brought his friend and his girlfriend who was in a wheelchair, and the guy who was there had a Superman costume on.
Uh-huh.
And he no, this was really cool. And he ended up like picking up his girlfriend out of the wheelchair and he put her in the chair. He's like, "Do you need
Now I feel
anything?"
bad for booing.
And he's walking around like,
Now I feel evil.
What a jackass.
and so it's like, it's the end of the thing, and we're all walking by. We're like, "Dude, that's a cool costume." He's like, "Thanks." And he picks up his girlfriend. You have a good time? She's like, "I did, honey." And they kissed, and we're like, "This is
Aw,
cool."
that's great.
And then like we go to the
It's a shame it
bathroom.
was such a bad movie from what I heard.
We go to the bathroom afterwards because you get the giant sodas, and we just see we hear this. And we look, and the guy's just walking, but you see the cape just picking up just regular wind. And
You
we're
give him
like,
a salute as he walks by.
well, we all
Superman.
we're washing our hands. We're like, "Dude, that cape's badass." And he's like, "Thanks, guys."
Does he
was
get on the
cool.
way when you sit on the toilet?
Do you think he sits there with it like bundled up in his arm and like over his shoulder, just having his super poops?
That's a good question for the hero
did you see-
himself. Does Superman have to poop
There's-
when he's fighting things?
There's a great de-inspirational poster where it just shows it just is like three guys at the urinal and it shows Superman and the urinal's like destroyed and it just says Superman. Well, it says super strength. Anyway,
So yeah,
Prostate.
Andrew and I went. Was it just me and you, or was it me, you, and somebody else?
I think it was just us.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it was just. I don't fucking nerd. No, yeah, that was because we saw that after June.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw
So-
Monsters University on the same day.
Yeah,
Double
nice.
header.
How was that?
Much better than Man of Steel.
So anyway, we saw it not on opening day, I don't think. Anyway, we saw it, and the entire time, understand that I went into this movie admittedly more critical of it than I would be of
Anything else?
Literally
Like you had
any other movie.
slight bias going
Because
into
I
it.
have a bias. I don't like Superman. I think
No, I
he's
know.
boring. I think
Yeah.
he's overplayed, and
You think he's
Exactly.
dumb for the reasons that most people think.
exactly,
he's fucking
yeah.
stupid.
And I know there's also reasons that people love him, and that's fine. You can fucking love Superman. I'm not gonna like.
But it doesn't mean I'm going to like
Yeah,
Superman.
exactly. Go ahead. You were
I wasn't
doing
going to say anything.
this with your
I
hand.
blew a thing out of my hand, like a
Like
butterfly.
that. He did
That's
that.
great.
But I'll tell.
That was
But
weird.
while we're here, I
Yeah.
will say I also went in
Like a bag.
slightly low expectations because while you dislike Superman, I dislike Zack Snyder,
Yeah.
who I consider one of Hollywood's most overrated directors.
Which is it's
He's passionate, but he's not good. That's basically what I like. He clearly has a labor of love for the projects he chooses, and like he tries so hard, but
Never makes it to
It
that
doesn't
finish line.
quite hit.
it's his style is really overblown, and that's part of it. I want to.
Melodramatic.
To stop
action.
us from just ranting at length with no coherence
That's fine.
about this movie,
Yeah, that's
I was thinking it might be more constructive if we were just like the top 3 things we didn't like about it.
Okay, you go first thing because I'm gonna have to pick 3.
Prepare your list, I'll start. First of all, Zack Snyder has this fetish for blowing shit up. He's
A
like
Michael Bay.
he's like
syndrome.
Michael Bay with a little more style.
Ho!
It goes without saying that most of the rest of this podcast is going to feature extensive Man of Steel spoilers, so I'd tune out now because I'm going to.
And this is also the last thing we're going to talk about. So if you just want to stop the podcast now, that's fine. We'll
Just
see you
leave.
guys
We
later.
don't care.
Stop it
I
now.
care. Ian
But
doesn't.
if you leave, please rate and review. On
Yeah, please
Yeah,
write
do
review.
that first.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
podcast.
Or just stay.
Or just stay. Whatever. We're
So-
glad to have you.
For my first thing that I really dislike about it, probably about an hour and a half into the movie, maybe an hour 15, the fighting really gets underway.
Yes!
Superman and Zod just fucking going at it. Superman and Zod's army. Superman and Zod's giant robot spider.
Thing.
Everybody has
Basically, once the action starts, it is unrelenting and monotonous for the rest of the film. They start throwing a couple neat punches. You're like, this is pretty cool. I love these special effects. This looks neato. And it never comes down.
No peaks and valleys.
It's constant punch face for like an hour. Just punch face, punch face, punch face,
Keep punching that
punch
face.
face, punch face. I just...
Face punch.
It started out cool. At this point, the movie hadn't lost me. There were little nitpicks with it, but I was still kind of in it. I was kind of digging, and the action scenes were starting up. I'm like, cool, we're getting to the climax of this, and then it just never stopped. It was just tireless action over and over, and it's like, I love a good action movie, like, fucking Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, all that stuff. But those movies know when to go hard and then when to cool off for a little
Hot
bit.
fuzz.
You've hot fuzz. I'm actually going to use a wrestling analogy here because I feel like it's important. As
Lay
the
it
only,
down.
as the only person here who watches professional wrestling,
I watch it sometimes.
only because of me.
That's fair.
When professional
That doesn't count.
when in professional wrestling they have a major pay-per-view event, and this is really only WWE because TNA's run like shit. So the major wrestling federation in the world right now is WWE. Most people would know it as WWF, which is what it was back when it was super huge.
Right.
Before they got
Right.
sued.
Whenever they do
Right.
a big pay-per-view event, they've usually got 2 or 3 big main events. They'll have like
Oh yeah.
John Cena versus Randy Orton in a grudge match, and then like CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE title. It's like 2 super big main events. So what they'll do is, as the show starts winding down to an end, they'll throw out their first main event, which is John Cena, Randy Orton in this grudge match, and they'll go like 20, 30 minutes and just beat the shit out of each other, and then that match is over. And instead of jumping right to the next main event, they do like a women's match, which, apologies to women, I don't mean to be degrading, but women's wrestling in WWE is a fucking
And
joke.
that's not because it's women. That's because the wrestlers they have are.
Yeah, they've just hired bad ones. There's good
Yeah.
women's wrestling, but it's not
They've
in this.
hired wrestlers that look good but don't.
Yeah, it's not in this company. But
You
what they'll
want
do
more?
is
Yeah.
right after that intense first main event, they'll throw out like a Divas match or
Something
a throwaway
light.
tag team
Yeah.
match, something really light, a bathroom break match.
Peaks and
A
valleys.
palate cleanser.
And then once that match is
Yeah.
over and you've gotten like 10 minutes to catch your breath, then out comes CM Punk and Daniel Bryan for the second main event. You need to give your audience a chance to cool down before you keep punching in the face, because otherwise they just get tired of watching face punching.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's what I hit with Man of Steel. Is I just hit
It's
this
like a
spin-
roller coaster ride,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can't just keep going up here. It's
And
not
it-
scary.
and it
if you're up
suddenly
here
just
all the time.
for
Well, yeah.
eternity.
If the whole ride is like you go up one big hill and then you go like down a hill for like 5 minutes.
At first you're scared, but then you're like,
At first
man,
it's
I
really
just want
awesome.
to get up this
But
goddamn
then you
ride.
just get tired of
Guys,
it.
wait.
Exactly.
Guys, that's like every roller coaster I build in Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's literally, I build as high as I can, and then I
And then
dip the
straight
ground
back
as
down,
low, and
baby.
just like, it's curls, like loops, and down. That's it.
So Andrew, what you're saying is Man of Steel needed more diva matches in it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
More diva matches.
more-
Man of
attractive
Steel,
women.
once the action started, need to incorporate some women's wrestling to give us a chance to break away. I'm not suggesting that Amy Adams in her lingerie wrestling another woman might have been a great idea. It probably
Might
would
just
have
be.
been.
You should
It
suggest
probably
that.
would have been.
Yeah.
Even if it had made no sense in the story. So that would be my first problem with it, is
Okay.
just action fatigue. Second problem with it is the general portrayal of Jonathan Kent, who...
I did not like Jonathan Kent.
Thank you.
Who was played by?
Who is played by the great Kevin Costner.
And
There you go.
it should be noted that this is by no fault of Kevin Costner's.
It is not.
No.
One of the things
This
I
was my
often
biggest
praise
issue
about
with it.
Man of Steel is I consider the cast to have all done a very good job with the limited material they were given.
Yeah.
I think Cavill was great. I think Adams was great.
Oh my god, he's a perfect Superman.
Yeah, I thought he was
love
fantastic.
him.
Great.
Michael Shannon was awesome. You know.
Really liked Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they had a very good cast, but they just didn't have a lot to work with. My biggest problem is with Jonathan Kent, who is typically
He's a great character.
yeah, he's a great character. As someone who watched Smallville for all
Yeah,
10 seasons,
he's
and
the
Jonathan
American.
Kent for the first 5, he's the perfect guy to help Clark growing up because the whole premise of Superman, like at its start, is that Ma and Pa Kent are the reason Superman doesn't grow up to be a fucking super villain. Because he's raised with wholesome family values and,
Yeah.
and morals and shit. It's
In
like
a farm town, blah blah blah.
yeah, he doesn't grow up to be like, the Earth equivalent of Doomsday because he was raised right. He could have been raised by terrible
Do you
parents
mean
and just
Darkseid?
rebelled and broken free of his chains and been a horrifying supervillain. But he didn't, and that's because of the values that his parents
Right,
placed on him.
right.
But Jonathan Kent in this fucking movie
He's kind of an asshole.
He's kind of a dick, and he's basically like slapping his son down every time he does something good. The crucial scene in this, one of the crucial scenes in this film, is a flashback to when Clark is a kid.
God damn it, you took mine.
I'm so well. You
Oh
can-
wait. No, yours is different because mine isn't when he's a kid.
Is yours the
It's the
tornado?
highway. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could touch on that too.
Oh,
But
no,
I'll
don't
let
do
you.
it.
I'll let you
It's
tackle
I
it.
would say the bus is
That can-
better, honestly.
The bus is what hit me because
Yeah.
in a scene of Man of Steel, Clark is on a school bus that like falls into like a river or something.
And
Yeah,
he's on the school
He's
bus.
on the
like
bus
a
with
young
all his
kid.
classmates, and the bus is going under the river. He thinks fast. He's like, "Shit, I've got powers. Let's fix this shit." So he, dives
Picks
out of
it
the
up
bus
out of the
and
ground.
he fucking pushes the bus out of the river and pushes it onto shore.
Right.
And he gets home, and some parents from school are talking to Ma and Pa Kent, and like, "We could have sworn we saw Clark do something fucking crazy." And like, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're
but
just
then,
on medicine.
that's par for the course. Is like, of course, they'd be
Yeah.
talking them out of it, talking them down. But then, Clark's outside all moping and shit, and Jonathan Kent comes out and he's like, "Clark, you shouldn't have done that. You can't let people know about your powers." And I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" Jonathan Kent would never in a million years tell Clark to not save people. And that's exactly what he does in Man of Steel.
You shouldn't have saved that school
He
bus
goes
full of
right up to
children.
Clark and says, "Sometimes, you've got to just let things happen. The world isn't ready to know about your powers." And a message of the movie beats into your head over and over and over again. And he just tells Clark, "You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have saved that bus full of kids." And I'm like, Jonathan Kent would never have said that.
Right.
Not in any Superman canon I am at all familiar
Any
with.
person wouldn't have said that.
Well, yeah,
really.
any morally strong parent would have said that. They'd be
Right.
like, we're kind of in a jam now because you helped those kids, but we want you to know we're
You
not
did
mad
the
at you
right
because
thing.
you did the
Proud of
right
you,
thing.
yeah.
Right.
You did the right thing, and we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna talk
We're
down
gonna
the
take
other
this burden
parents.
because you saved people.
Yeah, you
Well,
saved
even-
lives. You didn't just save lives; you saved
A
children.
busload of
A
children.
busload of children whose lives are considerably more valuable than most other people's in the world's eyes.
In
Well,
general,
But, I mean, let's get real.
Yeah.
If a plane full of adults crashes and a plane full of children crashes,
Which
which
is the
plane
bigger
do more
news
people
story.
cry on?
Yeah.
Well, you're never gonna see a plane full of children crash.
It's a hypothetical scenario.
The pilot
Well,
is
like,
also
you-
a child.
Yeah, exactly.
Mention this, even in the
That's
comics,
the problem.
Yeah.
Even in the comics, Pa Kent is like, "Look, our son has powers. We want to try and save you from the, you shouldn't do that." But always, first even if he'd be like, "Son, you need to be more careful about your powers," but he'd immediately be like, "But you did the right
But
thing."
you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, and
I-
I feel like we kind of got robbed of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is classic Jonathan Kent to say, like, you need to keep your
Oh,
powers
yeah.
under wraps. But it's not classic Jonathan Kent to say, don't save that bus full of children.
Kinda.
Yeah. Don't do it, man. It's bad news.
So that's my number two, and this also corresponds with the tornado scene, but I'm going to let Jake touch on that one. And then
that fucking
I guess my third thing that I'd say would probably be the ending. And let's hold the phone here. A lot of people got upset with the end of this movie because Superman doesn't kill people.
This is also one of mine, but we can do it.
But and that's not my problem. At the end of this movie, Superman snaps General Zod's neck because he's threatening.
Seriously?
And this, he just fucking breaks his neck, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I don't give a shit if you think
was
Superman
kinda cool.
can't
I
kill.
thought it was-
Superman can kill in very extreme circumstances.
And he can kill hard.
Yeah, and like there's like one of my favorite
By
bits
George.
from I think it was either the Superman animated series or the Justice League animated series. He's fighting Doomsday or Darkseid, somebody, and he's literally like, it's one of those really epic fights where they're like throwing each other through buildings and shit. And you can find it on YouTube, but he's talking to him as he beats the shit out of this villain.
it's Darkseid,
And
yeah.
It's Darkseid, yeah, and he's like, usually I have to hold back and use a really, really small percentage of my power because I don't want to hurt people.
Literally, one of the
Like-
lines is he goes, "I feel like I live in a world full of like cardboard."
Yeah, exactly. He says that, and then and immediately after that, he like punches him through like 12 buildings. But he's like,
It
but
feels
with
good.
you, I don't have to do it. I can go all out because you can take it. I can unleash on you, and he just beats the fuck out of this guy.
it's as
and it
epic
is
as you
so satisfying because you finally get to see Superman be all that he can be, and that's the Superman I like. Why can't I always have that Superman?
Because not all of his villains can be indestructible space monsters.
No, it doesn't
Usually
even
they're
need to be
just
that.
people.
Yeah, and this is why
Usually
I like
it's
Superboy
Lex
Prime.
Luthor.
Because Superboy Prime is literally Superman with no bars.
He has no
So,
emotional
anyway,
filter,
continue.
that's what it is.
Anyway, back to where I was. The reason he snaps Zod's neck is because he's like got him in a headlock inside this like train station or museum or wherever the fuck
Something.
it is. It's in some big building with like a foyer. And
Sorry, what?
Zod's
You just wanted to say foyer.
Zod's got his like heat vision going, and he's like gonna point it at like this family of 4 that's like cowering in the corner, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill him, Clark. I'm gonna do it.
Suddenly-
You're gonna be so fucking pissed because I'm gonna kill these dudes." And Clark's like, "Oh no, shit."
Clark's
And-
never met these people, by the way.
Yeah, and he's just like begging, like, "No, don't kill those people. Don't kill those people. Stop." Everything that has led up to this moment, where Clark inevitably kills this man to stop him from killing 4 civilians, is just civilians dying by Superman and Zod's hands. And basically what leads up to this fight is just a big fucking battle in Metropolis where Zod
Punching
and
through
Superman
buildings.
are punching each other through buildings and
Yeah.
leveling the city around them. Now, granted, I would understand if Superman can't save these civilians because Zod
Because
is just...
yes,
if
I would
Zod's
understand
punching
that
through buildings and shit. He's like, Zod's got him on the ropes, Superman can barely keep himself alive. That's fine.
I'd be
But
fine
there-
with that argument, but yeah.
There are a few scenes in this big climactic fight, and there's always one I vividly remember because I saw it as it happened and was like,
Is
that
it
was
the
stupid to do.
The tanker one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one moment where I don't remember if it's Zod or one of Zod's hench people, but
It's
they like
Zod. It's
shove like a gas semi truck at Superman. And Superman just fucking like jumps over it and it explodes into
Like
a building
lazily.
behind him.
Like he, the look on his face even says like, I don't give a shit.
He very nonchalantly jumps over it, and I'm like, okay, that building was full of people, probably. And instead of just, I don't know, using your super strength and being like, stop,
and putting it
and
down.
just like putting his
fire.
hands on the tank and just stopping it and then setting it aside or something, he just jumps over it because he wants to look like a badass, I guess, and lets this building behind him crumble because of this explosion and probably taking civilian lives. So it's
Also-
like, I understand that they want to emphasize that part of what Superman's character is that he wants to save everyone. And I think the movie did get that across to an extent, but I also think some of its hypocrisy shown through there
Yeah.
because
Like with
Zack
that scene.
Snyder, with his intense fetish for blowing shit up and causing carnage
And
around him,
badass heroes.
didn't take into account that because of this awesome fight scene he's putting together between Superman and Zod, he's also making Superman basically an accomplice to all of these lives lost in the city. Which, you know, I guess if you want to go with a
By ways of
gritty...
making him more badass instead of like realistic.
Yeah, and
which is
again-
the fun of like
Which is
modern
why-
superhero movies.
And that's also why everyone says they love Superman, because he's like, he's an alien that is so human, and I'm like, no, he's fucking not.
Well, and see, again, I could understand it all if like the big theme of his fight is that Zod is just beating the shit out of Superman. He's doing everything it takes to keep himself alive. But it's not. It's fairly even for the most part. And then the crux of this film, him killing Zod, focuses on Superman making a tough moral choice to save civilian lives.
Yeah.
But it's like, at this point, you're making that tough moral choice on top of what's 4 more lives. You let a building full of people crumble to the ground.
Not even
most
one.
likely.
It happens
Into
like
a
4
fire.
times.
Again, I'm just going off the one example,
Yeah.
but yes, surely
Yeah, yeah.
buildings all over Metropolis.
The
fell-
Daily Planet building
crumbled to their
fucking
knees.
falls.
And so it's almost humorous to me that like in this moment, Zod is trying to make Clark suffer just a little bit by saying like, you're going to have to kill me or those people are going to die. And Superman is all like, oh no, I'm suffering, instead of being like, that's 4 more fucking people, I've got you beat, this is nothing.
Well, I've already killed
You-
this many. That's it.
You
Yeah.
are fucked.
Next.
All you've got in your hand is these 4 people, and as soon as you kill them, you're still mine. So like, you know,
Do what you want.
I can understand why he killed Zod, and I'm fine with Superman killing people. That's what a
I'm
lot of
fine with
people
it.
got mad about, and I didn't care about that because again, I understand sometimes Superman has to do that shit, but the whole
I
point
think
of it being
Superman's more interesting when
When-
killing people is involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's pushing him to his limits as a character.
Because that's my big problem with Superman is that he's all ultimate and it's like big fucking deal. Everything's boring. He goes in there, he fights,
Because he never
and
gets
it's
to use his
over.
full power.
Yeah.
In all the best
It's
stories.
better when he's like, he's crossing lines and he's not
Oh,
being
definitely.
the Iowa-grown like
Kansas.
American boy.
Kansas, yeah.
Oh well, they're both
Jeez,
flat
Ian,
and filled with
how
corn.
dare you
get
not,
your origins right.
I'm
God.
sorry.
how dare you not be so versed in comic books?
Actually, God damn it, I didn't know it was Kansas.
You just fucking
Smallville,
said that.
Kansas.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, if I had like a top
Quoting the
3,
line, Superman
Yes.
is a guy from Kansas.
Kansas.
it would be the overabundance of action with no breaks, the absolute piss poor portrayal of Jonathan
John.
Kent, and the whole don't kill civilians quandary when he clearly killed like so many.
He's done many.
Yada yada. So
So
anyway,
indirectly killed hundreds of people.
that's me summing up what I found wrong with Man of Steel.
And
Now, you're up.
I agree with every single thing that Andrew just said.
Yeah.
So, and luckily he didn't like step on all of my problems. But a lot of my problems in comparison seem a little small, simply because there's a lot of tiny problems with the movie and a few huge problems. Brandon, go ahead.
There's a small point I want to bring up that I don't think you'd bring up. Apparently, everyone in the movie knows it's already Superman. Like, they know Clark Kent is Superman. They call him Clark.
Oh, that's because he comes out.
He comes
Like,
out.
he comes out.
Comes out.
But like
Lois Lane figures him out pretty soon.
Yeah, Lois Lane figures him out. It's like, you're Superman, and he's like, you got me.
It's a montage of incredible reporting skills.
Yeah.
She basically like travels the world talking to everyone who ever ran into this mystery man and eventually tracks him down at his farm in Smallville.
It's
It's
like
like,
the
so
Bang
you're
and the
Superman.
Class.
And he's like, what?
Yeah, it's actually really like it really shows that she's an awesome reporter.
It is a good way to introduce Lois Lane's character because it's like, shit, this chick is good.
Yeah, she figured
Yeah.
it the
Even
fuck out.
if it's a little absurd, this is a superhero movie, so absurdities can.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if they know he's Clark Kent necessarily, but they do know Superman exists. Even though, like, for part of the movie, he's trying to lay low and be like, I'm not Superman. Superman's not a real person. That doesn't exist.
What is
You
a
guys are
Superman?
crazy. Anyway, so my biggest, one of a problem with this movie in the scene where Pa Kent dies. He dies via tornado because Kansas.
Because Kansas.
How else do you die?
What else happened?
In
That's
Kansas,
all-
there
everyone
is a
I know
tornado.
whoever died died because
exactly.
of a tornado.
They died in Kansas because of tornado.
that's
They're on a highway and there's a tornado and people are taking cover in ditches. They're taking cover under overpasses.
Which you're not supposed to
None
do.
of which you're supposed to do.
Ditches, yes, but not
Oh,
overpass.
okay. All right.
Overpasses are not safe.
Okay,
And if
well,
you live in Kansas, I feel like you know that.
Yeah.
Well, real quick along that point, when me and Sparky went to go see Dark Knight Rises, and there's this glorious scene where, you know exactly what I'm going to talk about. There's this glorious scene where they're all just like, death or exile! And whenever they pick exile, they send them on ice, and when I was in the theater, I was like, you don't walk on ice! And I got really mad.
Impossible.
I got really mad.
Yeah.
And in a glorious moment during this film, he just goes, that's your one problem with this? I'm like, yes!
Right then.
You don't fucking walk on ice like it's do. Maybe if I think I'm light.
Maybe if I walk very carefully.
Maybe if I do this funny-looking walk. Anyway.
So they're on this fucking highway and they're all running out of their cars to get in the ditch or under the overpass or something. They're leaving their fucking cars and like traffic's backed up to shit.
Yeah.
And they have a dog with them, and this is right after Clark and Pa Kent have had an argument.
Crypto
So,
is super dog.
Was that dog white? Because it was white, it was probably meant to be Crypto.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, so they get out of the car after this argument, and the argument is supposed to have happened because this is supposed to make tension.
You're not my
between-
real dad!
Yeah, yes, literally, like that's the argument that
It's-
Clark is making.
It's
like,
the Spider-Man Uncle Ben fight.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's what it is. And they get out of the car and they run away, and the dog is trapped in the car, or something. It's like barking, and Clark
Crypto.
goes to save the dog. And mind you, the tornado it's bearing down on them, but it's not like
There yet.
they're not. It's not throwing cars right next to him yet. So Clark like goes to save the dog, and Pa Kent like grabs him. He's like, "No, you can't do this. People will see you, and they'll know your powers." And he's like, "But the dog." And Pa Kent's like, "No, I'll go save the dog." And it's not even. It doesn't make any sense because he wouldn't have had to use his powers to like break open the door.
He
or
could have
run
lightly
fast.
jogged over there, grabbed the dog, and lighted
Literally,
the dog back.
it's like
Yeah,
maybe
fine.
20 yards away. This motherfucker a normal person would do this. And they would be like, oh, thank God, you were so brave. Like, people would look at him
Well,
like,
no.
you're so brave. But that's it.
And it's even basically spelled out in the film because Jonathan Kent goes to get the dog, and he makes it to the dog with time to spare.
Yeah.
And the only reason he gets caught up is because he gets hurt over there.
Yeah, he gets hurt. And
Which,
we
funny enough, wouldn't have happened to Clark.
No, and this fucking, the thing that fucking gets me is that he gets hurt, and I know that this is like, it's a movie, you have to take, like, it's for dramatic effect, what the fuck ever, but in the context of the story, he gets hurt, like his ankle gets hurt, and he takes a few hops back toward, and he gets there, like he's using the cars for balance and shit, and he gets there, but then he stops, and he looks back at the tornado, and then he looks back at Clark, and it cuts to Clark, and Clark's like, "No, Dad!" And Pa Kent's like, "I have to do this, son." And he just like,
Yeah.
wait, he stands there for like 10 fucking
Well, and he's all like,
seconds.
"Don't save me."
Yeah, he's like, "Don't do
Because
it."
again, don't tell anyone
Yeah.
about your powers,
And-
even if it would save my life.
But he stands
Even if
there
you, again,
so
just lightly
long
jogged.
just to get eaten by this fucking tornado. And he could have made it. He could have gone to the fuck, like,
Would have kept hopping.
Yes.
He could have.
Death of Jonathan Kent is another
Oh my
really.
God.
Don't save me, even though you could just lightly jog here and be like, all right, let's go, and I would have made it.
Yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
Dad, let's walk that way.
And it's just the entire thing feels forced. It's like
It did
this is a
feel
part of his
forced.
origin story, and we have to make this happen.
It did feel
Right.
So let's try to make it as dramatic as possible.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is the pacing in this fucking movie. And Andrew touched on this. It's so like balls.
It's pretty bad.
Like the first 20 minutes are on Krypton because it's when Krypton's falling, whenever it's exploding.
Yeah, it was when
Like
I
a
saw
car
that
guy.
part, I thought I
It's
saw it as
so
like a
fucking-
big space opera.
Yeah,
I was
and
like,
it's so good.
Ooh.
The first 20 minutes of that movie are rad, and it's the
Pretty neat.
first role I've seen Russell Crowe in years where I was like, yes, Russell Crowe, be Superman's dad. But fucking after that, it just shits the bed because
back in the Antarctic.
yeah, exactly because
Back on the farm.
it gets
Yeah.
caught between David S. Goyer's like action script and Zack Snyder trying to make this into Superman Returns. He's trying to push this really artsy, really like heartfelt. This is just a homegrown kid growing up trying to find his way in the world who doesn't know how to use his powers. But you can't do that. You have to choose one or the other, or be fucking brilliant at making movies because they don't mesh. You can't do both. And this is a lot of the reason that I don't want to see, but I'm going to see it because it has
Superman versus Batman.
Batfleck in it,
Yeah.
and I have to see Batfleck. I need it in my life.
I need it so hard.
Exactly. So, and technically, it's called Man of Steel 2. Everybody like refers to it as World's Finest, but it's not. It's Superman versus Batman
I've
or Man of
been
Steel
heard
2.
it's
Yeah.
Superman
They've
versus Batman.
very much made it clear that it's not
Yes,
World's Finest.
and I'm fine with that.
I'm not fine with that.
Sorry.
I want World's Finest. I
You'll
don't
get
want
it
Superman
later,
versus Batman.
maybe.
Anyway, so what the fuck was I talking about?
It's okay.
I
we
got
gotta wrap
angry.
stuff up.
You're talking about
It's-
pacing.
That's pacing.
The last
The pacing
20
is balls,
first
and
20
after
minutes.
the first 20 minutes, it just gyrates between this. Like Andrew said, the last hour is
Gyrates.
like fucking just punching action all the time, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
Like I know that your fucking conclusion is supposed to be brief. It's usually the shortest part of the story, but it just fucking is. Like he kills Zod.
It is really neat and tied up in a bow too.
Yeah.
like everyone at the Daily Planet's back to like their happy, charming lives, even though like the whole city burned down around them.
Yeah, and that's one more thing. They have the Daily Planet crew, like Lawrence Fishburne, Jimmy Olsen, and Amy Acker, or Lois Lane.
Amy
Fucking-
Adams.
Amy Adams, whatever. Fuck. I don't. This movie's dumb. So they have the whole Daily Planet crew, whenever Zod and Superman are fighting, and they're like breaking buildings and shit. And is it the Asian girl that gets trapped in the?
Yeah.
Yeah. She gets.
Meaningless ancillary
Oh,
character.
Yeah, meaningless ancillary character gets trapped in like the rubble, and Lawrence Fishburne is like, "I'll save you," and he goes to save her, and we've seen this girl and Lawrence Fishburne maybe 5 minutes total this entire movie.
We at
This
least
is-
saw Lawrence Fishburne a bit, but I didn't even recall seeing
Yeah.
the girl prior.
and
to
so
seeing
this
it.
is like the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Oh, yeah?
They're trying to make us feel something for these characters because it's like, oh, they have to save each other. Are they going to make it or are they not? And he's like trying to like pull her out of this fucking rubble, and she can't move, and they're trying to lift it and shit, and it's time wasted
Yes.
on a movie that already feels exactly like 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so long, and it's unbearable to watch it, and I can't. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5.
I'm more generous than that, but
I will. I should
I-
note
I
that
do feel your pain.
despite my scale starts at 0 stars. I don't give a shit. I will give something 0 stars if it deserves 0 stars. But Hans Zimmer came to fucking play with his
the
soundtrack.
score is
It's
bananas.
so good, and for all of its fault, it is a damn pretty movie.
It's a
It's a really good
Oh
looking
my
film.
do it looks fantastic.
It's because of that I wanted to give Zack Snyder Green Lantern. If we got that big of a space
No,
opera,
don't do it.
I won't.
You do not let him
Jake,
touch
Jake,
that.
Jake will fight you on this one.
Because it's not my right to give those
Yeah.
rights to him.
Yeah,
Who would you
So-
give Green Lantern, Jake? Do you know who you'd give?
that's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
Um,
like
Abrams.
what director?
Uh,
No Abrams.
Actually, well, no,
Too much
Jake-
shaking camera
No, see,
and lens
J.J.
flare.
Abrams might work if only because
Into Darkness was good.
Into Darkness was good.
Into
Star
Darkness
Trek
was not that great.
Well, but see, this is the thing. Like
That's
Star
a story
Trek,
for another day.
yeah. Star Trek fans notoriously don't like J.J. Abrams.
No, I know.
But they don't like him because he made Star Trek, and Ian, I'm sorry that I'm gonna say it like this, but he made Star Trek watchable to like the layman.
Yes,
He,
Because
he
it's-
mainstreamed it.
Yes, and
That's a great way to put
that
it.
is.
So,
But there was problems with 2
Yeah,
that had nothing to
there
do with the
were-
mainstream.
oh, yeah,
Exactly. Just
but-
I feel like the script was the greatest culprit.
Oh, yes.
Too.
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that later.
Anyway, yeah.
Another
So
day.
I don't know who I would cast as, or not who I would cast, but who I would put like trust with it. I'm gonna have to look into it because I've never actually thought about that.
Maybe that could be a topic.
Not the
for
people
podcast,
who,
too.
not the people who did the Green Lantern movie.
Because them.
The greatest problem with that was that there were so many hands in the pot, though. Anyway, but that's Man of Steel. Fucking, I can't anymore. I'm gonna punch something.
I also want to point out one other tiny little thing before we go. One little thing that really bugged me was the adventures of Lois Lane, who is always in the right place at the right time.
Oh my God, yes.
Anytime the movie needed Lois Lane in a certain spot, she was there. I love how they towards the end of the movie, Superman and Zod are getting ready for the big final fight, and Superman like kisses Lois Lane, and they're all like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna fight this guy. I'm gonna do it." And he like flies up into space and starts fighting
I'm gonna do
Zod, and they crash back down to Metropolis, and it all ends wherever they are, possibly like 10, 12 miles away from where it all started. And he snaps Zod's neck. And as
Lois
the
is
battle
right
finishes,
there, yeah.
he like turns and Lois is coming down the steps, like right place, right time, Lois Lane. Just a tiny
World's
thing.
greatest reporter.
Tiny little thing, but that might have.
She can sense the
She
news.
can,
But
exactly.
because that happened so close to the end of the movie, that might have been like the straw that broke the camel's back to me.
Yeah.
Because I was already really worn down from a lot of stupid shit, and then like here she comes,
this
throwing
happens.
in really timely. I'm like, really?
God damn it.
So
So yeah, that's Man of Steel from Andrew and I. Again, I'm sorry if you like Man of Steel. That's your prerogative. I'm sure you saw something in it that I didn't, but I didn't like it. Andrew, I don't think liked it. But that's all for us on episode 7. We will see you probably in a couple days because I'm gonna post these. I'm gonna post both episodes this week.
it's another 2-episode week.
As opposed to last week, though, we have a guest. We have a guest episode this week, but that one's going to air after simply because I don't like fucking with the
Timing.
names because it confuses me. Also timing. So we will see you guys shortly, and that's it. On my left we have,
Andrew.
Ian.
Brandon.
Mitch.
and I'm Jake. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Mitch?
Rate and review on iTunes.
Yeah, do it. Rate and review on iTunes.
Yes.